The revolving door in government is an age-old problem, one that has come up against many potential solutions and tore them to pieces. Nowadays, the proposal to jam this revolving door is anti-lobbying, and its aim is to stop former government officials from becoming lobbyists. But not only is the proposal unfeasible, it's ludicrous. Lobbying is the most popular choice for ex-government officials, and there's good reason for it. Because we believe that power can create change, we are proud to oppose today's motion. This House would ban former government officials from becoming lobbyists. I'll be introducing our first two substantives covering furthering change and rights, and my second speaker will be addressing our third substantive. But first, for some definitions. Lobbying is any attempt by individuals or private interest groups to influence the decisions of government. Lobbying in some form is inevitable in any political system, says Britannica. Now that we understand what lobbying is, let's go into propositions arguments. Today, they had two main ones. The first is that it hurts democracy. For this, we have a couple of responses. The first is that lobbying allows former officials to continue to support their beliefs and promote the things that can help themselves and the people they represent. Lobbying is not just a government official going in and trying to help a corporation that's going to pay them the most. It is a government official going in and trying to persuade the connections they already had or the individuals in office currently to vote with them on certain issues that are already being proposed in Congress or that they want to be proposed. It's not necessarily buying votes, and it's not forcing issues to be discussed. Secondly, it allows for far more voices to be heard than just the elected officials, because now you have corporations who are able to tell these people what they want, you have interest groups, and you have charities, as well as former elected officials who are representing us at one point in time. Thirdly, government officials that become lobbyists are in the hundreds and can provide much-needed information that can help companies better understand their government, instead of barreling through blindly with a bag of cash and hoping them gets the results that they want. Their second argument was that it is a fraudulent money game. First off, the money is accounted for. That's how we know how much is spent on lobbying by the government and the lobbyists every year, because there's already regulations and resolutions put in place in order to protect lobbying and lobbyists to make sure that it's not just a fraudulent money game. Secondly, these individuals are trying to further their beliefs and help the corporations they're lobbying for. There will always be some bad apples, as proposition tells you. But one bad apple does not mean you cut down the entire orchard. Which brings me to my first substantive, how lobbying, especially by ex-officials, can help to further change. For this, we have two layers of analysis. The first is connections, and the second is knowledge. Let's go ahead and dive into the first. These government officials already have connections. Lobbying just allows them to continue to push for the things they already supported in office. Anyone can lobby their MP or a member of the House of Lords, says Parliament.uk, but it is usually more effective if you can find other people who share your concerns or experiences to lobby with you as a group. People who often lobby Parliament and its members include businesses, charities, pressure groups, trade unions, and representatives of various economic sectors of industry. Even Parliament itself recognizes that it's hard to lobby for change when you don't have power or a group behind you. But those ex-officials have already acquired that respect and power that allows for these smaller goals like charities and pressure groups to actually have their voices heard, something that will not happen in the proposition world if we ban these government officials from exercising their constitutional rights and supporting their own beliefs. Again, this furthers the voice in democracy because it allows for more individuals and more voices to be heard, directly contradicting proposition's first substantive argument. Which brings me to our second layer of analysis, knowledge. Most lobbyists, we argue, work to reduce the political uncertainty and policy risks facing their clients, says Scholars.org, by providing knowledge about how government works, or more likely, they help their clients understand how government does not work. So again, they're not barreling straight forward with a bag of cash trying to corrupt our government systems. Instead, they have somebody who already understands the laws and regulations put in place that can help to make sure that they're following those laws and actually coming up with the most influence that they possibly can legally. Democratic governments are confusing. Hardly any of us would claim to be experts of the inner workings of Parliament or Capitol Hill. but there are 535 individuals that can claim this level of expertise, and those are the ones Proposition is trying to keep out of the government. However, if we want companies and individuals to be able to enact change, we need to give them the tools to achieve this. Former government officials working as lobbyists have the power and knowledge to guide corporation and interest groups alike in the entangled webs of the legislative system, without which there wouldn't be nearly as many voices to have their complaints and grievances heard. We would see damage being brought upon the governmental system as well as our democracy if we were to ban these government officials. But that's furthered by our second substantive when we tell you about the rights that are guaranteed to these individuals, with two layers of analysis. The first is constitutions and the second is laws. The freedom to petition the government and freedom of speech is protected in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and allows for lobbying as a freedom to petition your government. Taking that right away from former government officials sets not only a dangerous precedent, it also stops these individuals from creating the good we talked about throughout our first substantive. Again, the Article 44 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union ensures the right to petition the European Parliament. Basic law for the Federal Republic of Germany guarantees the right to petition competent authorities and to the legislature. Across the globe, democracies have the ability to petition their government and speak their mind. That is not a right Proposition can take away from former government officials simply because they make money doing it. We recognize that people have a right to have a say in their government. It doesn't matter if they've already spent 2 years lobbying for this change. They still have the ability to go to their government, to use the power and skills that they've perfected over these years, and help A, these former government officials understand what they're arguing and lobbying for, and B, helping these corporations actually get their word out there and begin to lobby for change that can help both you and I. Which brings us to our final layer of analysis, which is laws. The Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995 is already in the United States Constitution, and it works to federally regulate lobbyists. It brought unprecedented accountability to what was before seen as a shady job, and it has withstood the test of time by providing regulations and things that lobbyists have to do to register, whether that's the money they're spending, the activities they're doing, who they're talking to, and who they're representing. These laws have been in place and are continuing to work to make lobbying a more legitimate career that we don't have to fear or be afraid of. We recognize that it is incredibly important that laws like these are in place, and that's why 7 of the EU countries also have mandatory registration for lobbyists and legislation on lobbyist activities. A far more logical choice rather than just outright banning former government officials and infringing on their constitutional rights from becoming lobbyists is to strengthen the laws already in place. In Proposition's world, we are losing knowledge, we are hurting change, we are damaging our democracy, and we are taking these very massively important rights away from 535 individuals, not to mention the individuals in the EU. We recognize as side opposition that opposition is the only way you can possibly vote if you want to protect our democracy and allow individuals to thrive in their society. Thank you, Judge.